Finding the right MMORPG is kind of like finding that elusive girlfriend that your mother always told you about. Most of us never will, but that doesn't stop us from trying, even despite getting your hopes up repeatedly, only to be shut down just as fast. Yes, we are gluttons for punishment, but at the same time, that is the MMO genre in a nutshell, right? Always waiting, never being truly satisfied. Hey, my name is STIX, and did you know that I'm actually giving away a copy of any game that you want? Yeah, Elden Ring, Final Fantasy XIV, MMO, non-MMO. All you have to do is be actively subscribed to this channel, because this giveaway is only for our active subscribers, and I can tell if you are by the little icon next to your name. So don't you try and lie. And then go down into the comment section below and leave a comment stating what the game was, that one defining game that got you interested in the gaming genre. Mine personally was the first Resident Evil game for the PlayStation 1. That game gave me nightmares as a kid for months. Now, I will draw the winner over on my personal Twitter sometime at the beginning of April. Quick shout out to our patrons over on Patreon. Every individual patron is a massive step towards total world domination, and you get to be a part of that. And it also helps support us too. Now today, I want to talk about the most populated MMORPGs in 2022, because there has been a substantial shift in terms of the most populated MMOs over the course of the last year, and we've had a significant number of new MMO releases. So I feel that this is, at this very moment, very important to cover. Yes, the Elder Scrolls Online continues to decline in terms of active players, not because this is a bad game, rather other games are just doing more to engage their players, I guess, than ESO is. The Elder Scrolls Online released back in 2014, a mere 7 years ago. Seriously, it came out after Black Desert Online. What, man? Oh, wow, it definitely feels like it has been out longer than that. ESO is sat within an already existing franchise, the Elder Scrolls. You know, Morrowind, Oblivion, Skyrim. Yes, I listed the 3 best in order of best to most overrated. The Elder Scrolls Online utilizes an action combat system and provides players with almost endless freedom to craft their character however they like. A robe-wearing, greatsword-wielding assassin, a hulking berserker that runs into combat with a small little dagger, and a teeny tiny little wand wearing a bikini. It also has one of the better told narratives within the genre, and that's mainly due to the fact that it's an Elder Scrolls game. They're all about crafting these really large, gorgeous worlds filled with lore, filled with more content than you have time to consume. The Elder Scrolls Online also reportedly has approximately 200,000 to 300,000 active players per month, which admittedly, while a continued decline year after year, is still very, very impressive. I actually covered this last year, but this is most definitely one of the most unique of circumstances. Star Citizen has not released yet at all. It's a barely functional game as it is after being in development for years. Yet at the same time, this game has gone on to acquire hundreds of millions of dollars worth of funding. To put this into perspective, Final Fantasy XIV cost $150 million to develop, and Black Desert Online costs $10 million. Star Citizen has raised hundreds of millions of dollars and still has absolutely nothing to show in terms of a release date. Yet that hasn't stopped players from playing whatever they can in the form that it's available in. This is a very incomplete game with very few fully implemented features. Yet last year, they reported that they had at their peak hundreds of thousands of active players, which is some of the most ridiculous numbers I have ever seen for an unreleased title that is still so far off from being ready. MMORPG is admittedly an MMO that I never expected to see, and I bet you guys never saw coming in a list like this, right? There's no way. This is a poor quality port of an already poor quality MMO. Yet even so, it has managed to remain one of the 10 most played MMOs in the world for half a year, which is absolutely crazy. MMORPG released back in 2021 and peaked at almost 100,000 concurrent players. This game utilizes an auto combat system. It has an auto pathing system and a more or less auto gaming system. This game legitimately plays itself, and while you're required to be present, I guess, at least physically present, not mentally alert at all, for the more difficult encounters, the majority of the game is pretty much hands off. Its unique selling point is the fact that you can earn money by playing it, and at its peak, players were earning upwards of $3,000 per month, which is absolutely absurd. Honestly, you would think that New World would be in this top 10 list, even coming in at maybe number 10, but it isn't. Where New World has a peak of 20,000 players concurrently playing today, Mir 4 has over 60,000, with combining the mobile and PC players together, anywhere between 300,000 to 500,000 players playing per month. I bet this is something that you never anticipated seeing either. Albion Online in a list of the most played MMOs in 2022. Albion Online was released back in 2017, and has slowly worked its way up to becoming a largely successful, quality title. This is a sandbox MMORPG that evidently took a lot of inspiration from RuneScape. As this is a sandbox MMO, you're given a large amount of freedom over how you decide you want to go about playing the game. Admittedly, I have never really dedicated all that much time to the game, as I don't know, it doesn't really seem like my type of game, but I am genuinely glad that so many other people enjoy it. This game utilizes a point-and-click combat style, meaning that there's no way of cycling through enemies with the tab key, and no way of attacking enemies freely with an action system. Honestly, this is the only game in this entire list that utilizes this specific combat system, making it a rarity. The game is quite minimalistic aesthetically. It really doesn't do anything noteworthy to distinguish itself from its competition graphically, but some of the best games are the most basic looking ones, right? Good graphics do not make a good game. South Korea is proof of that, as are the vast majority of their games. Last year, the team behind Albion Online set concurrency records, with over 270,000 players being logged in at any given time, bringing the game up to a total of over 600,000 active players towards the end of 2021, and the game has only continued to grow since then. Black Desert Online is generally considered to be the best looking MMORPG to have ever released. It is also considered to be the best playing action MMO to date, with other games trying to and failing to surpass the sheer dominance of the title. Black Desert Online released back in 2014. Yes, it has been that long. Almost 8 years in total. 8 years. Over the last 8 years, not a single MMORPG released has come close to competing with the game's dominance over the market in terms of graphics or combat. Unfortunately, BDO utilizes the best action combat system in the entire genre, with the only MMOs that come close to competing being Terra or Blatant Soul, or maybe even Vindictus. It also has the largest open world that you'll find, with not one single loading screen spread over what is hours worth of running from one side of the world to the other. Unfortunately, its narrative its narrative is severely lacking, but you know what? Nobody has ever said that they play Black Desert for its story, or if they did, they were lying. While it's not possible to give exact numbers for BDO's population, Pearl Abyss did claim back in 2020 that they had upwards of 150,000 active players, yet had seen an increase of over 200% within the year of 2021. A final announcement towards the end of 2021 went on to confirm a 300% increase in total players, leaving us with what is anywhere between 400,000 to 600,000 active players playing the game per month. RuneScape is, well, RuneScape. It's been the same kind of game for as long as I can remember, and I guess that's part of its charm, you know? RuneScape is the oldest title in this list, releasing back in 2001. Yes, it has really been around for over 2 entire decades. It's been around longer than many of this generation's MMO players have been alive, but I guess that is just a testament to how good the game must be, right? RuneScape is an enormous game, with more content than you can realistically dream of ever partaking of if you're a new player. People have actually been playing this game for their entire gaming lives and have still not completed everything there is in the game. The game utilizes a tab target combat system and has an astonishingly large open world for players to explore. And yes, the game does look dated, but that does not inhibit it at all. Combining RuneScape and old school RuneScape and even RuneScape Mobile together, this game has well over 500,000 active players per month. Guild Wars 2, 6 months ago, averaged approximately 200 to 300,000 active players over the course of an entire month, and that's being generous, which, admittedly is nothing at all to shy away from. That's still arguably better than 99% of non-MMOs. Guild Wars 2 was released back in 2012 and has since gone on to become one of the most played free MMOs. More than that, it's generally considered to have the friendliest community of any MMO online. It utilizes a hybrid action combat system that is functional underwater combat and provides depth that you just will not encounter outside of it, offering players a variety of different play styles depending on what kind of weapons you have equipped. And over the last few years, there has been one issue, I guess, that has been prevalent, that has been echoed within its community, and that is content releases. While definitely high quality, were infrequent and didn't provide enough content to retain a player interest long term, which changed recently when their latest expansion, End of Dragons, launched. Population numbers have been on the incline for the last month in anticipation of going into Cantha, with multiple sources claiming an average of over 100,000 concurrent players playing outside of peak hours, and the overall active player base growing by at least 80%. Guild Wars, therefore, is sitting anywhere between 400,000 to 600,000 players for the month of March, which is a number that I don't think ArenaNet nor NCSoft ever thought that they'd see again. Yeah, World of Warcraft is the third most played MMORPG right now. Shocking how the mighty have fallen, right? World of Warcraft did release all the way back in 2004 though, and up until 2020 was the most populated MMORPG. It was completely unrivaled. Nothing came close to competing with it, especially after WoW Classic launched to critical acclaim, with players having requested a return to vanilla WoW for years. WoW utilizes what is arguably the best tab target combat system in the entire genre, with games like Ion or Arcade being the only MMOs that are capable of even being considered somewhat comparable. It features a lore-rich narrative, although the story is so disconnected and disjointed after the repeated retcons made with each and every expansion, and the writers have absolutely no idea what they're doing after Legion, especially in Battle for Azeroth, and even furthermore in Shadowlands. Population numbers are not made public, but through a variety of different sources, you can get a rough gauge of how the game looks right now, and that is a total of approximately 1 million active players per month, give or take a couple 100,000. After the monumental failure of Shadowlands and the monolithic success of both Final Fantasy XIV's Endwalker expansion and Lost Ark, there is no doubt that WoW right now is definitely hurting. A mere month ago, Final Fantasy XIV held the crown for the most populated MMORPG, and after years of living in WoW's shadow, Final Fantasy XIV obtained that crown. It held the crown for several months as well, and it was entirely warranted. Final Fantasy XIV released initially back in 2010 and was such a critical failure that they overhauled the game from the ground up, costing hundreds of millions of dollars. This was the largest undertaking in the entire MMO genre, and it paid off, as even months later, active subscribers are higher than any previous expansion several months after it launched. Final Fantasy XIV utilizes a tab target combat system, and albeit a little on the slower spectrum for the first 60% of leveling, I guess, ends up providing some of the best PvE experiences within the genre. And unlike the vast majority of MMOs, Final Fantasy XIV allows for players to level every single class on the same character, eliminating any need for alternate characters. It has what is arguably the greatest told narrative in an MMO, a staple of the Final Fantasy franchise, and at times even goes as far as feels like a JRPG with multiplayer functionality. When Endwalker, Final Fantasy XIV's latest expansion, launched, it launched to higher numbers than ever recorded in the game's history. Fast forward a few months later, it is still sitting at well over 1 million active subscribers, give or take a couple 100,000, much like WoW. And finally, as of February and March 2022, Lost Ark is now the most played MMORPG. Lost Ark launched in North America and Europe in February 2022, just last month, and has taken the internet by storm thanks to Smilegate actually developing a quality MMO filled with content, beautiful graphics, and fantastic quality combat. Lost Ark utilizes a very interesting type of combat specifically, and camera angle for that matter, which you're no doubt coming to realize watching the clip going on in the background. It's one of the very few top-down isometric MMOs, with players using their left or right mouse buttons to move their character, which still feels kind of weird to me, and binding your abilities to your letter keys that are typically reserved for movement. The world of Lost Ark is enormous. The land masses are plentiful and are separated via the large endless ocean. To navigate to different land masses, you're required to sail, like actually sail, and you know, while it does look a little bit cheesy, it does go on to add additional layers to an already very unique game. While Lost Ark has definitely seen its population decline by quite a margin, from 1.3 million concurrent players down to 700,000 over the course of the last month, there are still much higher numbers than any other MMO. There are still several million players actively playing this game all over the world. And that is it. They are the 10 most played MMORPGs currently right now in 2022. And I know you're looking at this list and you're like, there are definitely some games in that list that I did not expect seeing. Games like Mirror 4 or Star Citizen for that matter. And yeah, the genre is in a weird state right now. We've had games like Swords of Legends Online launch as a buy-to-play MMO, then convert to a free-to-play business model, launch with almost 20,000 people playing it as a buy-to-play game, and then when it transitioned to free-to-play only had like 2,000 players. We had Albion launch and very strongly underperform. We had PSO2 New Genesis come out, New World, Lost Ark. There have been a plethora of different MMOs, most of which haven't really withstood the test of time. Nevertheless, the year has been a pretty good year in terms of MMOs. There have been a lot of new things to play, and there have been a couple that have shown us that the genre is still very much alive, more alive than we would have actually given it credit for. Now, with all this said and done, there are still multiple new MMO releases coming out over the course of 2022, 2023, but while we don't have a clearly defined list of games that are going to be launching this year, what we do have is this game right here, which is going to take the world by storm.